Welcome to the Rinky Dink BS Podcast, episode 40, with your host, the podcast god, SuperFly, Johnny Lee. And tonight we have an excellent episode because we got in the house phenomenal Phinds ATL's very own Eric Bullock and Carter Bullock and their son as well. So guys, why don't we kick this off by asking you one of the questions I've been wanting to ask for a long time. What got you into doing what you've been doing?
Man, we started doing this probably about 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. In Atlanta, we lived before we moved to Kentucky. So we started selling online. Then it was just a random thing. We went to a flea market and picked up a Tonka truck that looked like it was in pretty decent condition. And I looked it up on eBay and saw that one had sold, the same one that we had, is sold for like $80 or something like that. We picked it up for $15 and we sold it on there. It wasn't my first time selling on eBay, but it's the first time I'd done it in probably like 10, 15 years. So we sold it, and it was the most terrible experience ever. The post office had done something to the box. It dropped it, put other boxes on it or something, but it damaged the truck pretty bad.
Oh, man.
Luckily, the guy that bought it was a collector who also did repairs on the Tonka trucks. He had just an awesome collection. He showed me after he got it, but so luckily it went to him. He was reasonable about the damages. He knew stuff like that happens at the post office. We ended up refunding him, I think it was like $50 or something like that, but also filed a claim with the post office and we got our money back. I mean, it was a big, long ordeal, but we saw what we could do with just, being picky about what we pick up. And so we started in Atlanta with that. That was probably like 3 years ago. And we just started going to thrift stores, flea markets around Atlanta, picking up what we could, anything that was cheap that we could make a profit on. Just started watching a lot of YouTube videos. I know you probably like watching YouTube too, but there's a lot of YouTube sources for anything, and one of them being reselling. So I found a few people that I like to follow and, kind of see what they do, and learned off of them.
That's very smart, too.
Yeah.
Because we see you all the time at Trip Crown Wrestling. Y'all are making a killing there because y'all got the retro figures out there. People can come there, find things like a John Cena figure, which they might not have found anywhere else, or they might find anything that you've come across. And y'all been doing a hell of a job.
Yeah. So like we basically sell everything, but when we go to the TCW, UCW shows, we only bring our wrestling stuff, and that's anything from figures, and we've got a lot of shirts, clothing, period. I really like to find the oddball wrestling memorabilia, though, like. So, like, we have some weird stuff. Like, we've had a Bray Wyatt chair that was from a pay-per-view. I'm trying to think. I've got like a toothbrush, a Road Dogg toothbrush still in the package. But anything I can find that's really off the wall. I had a WWF beanbag chair from like the 80s that we've sold pretty recently.
My favorite ones, we had bowling balls.
Oh, yeah.
A rock bowling ball, Stone Cold.
Stone Cold, yeah.
And we had the
we also had a Goldberg one.
The pool stick from Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve Austin pool stick. So, like anything that's kind of off the wall, and I like to find that stuff because it's uncommon. Like if I can find some of the more oddball stuff, like everybody's got figures. You can find figures anywhere, and really it's pretty tough selling the figures on eBay because the market's so flooded with them.
That's true.
So even with the figures, I try to stick to the more uncommon figures now. Like if we're buying them to sell, My new favorite thing to search for are TNA Impact figures. So, like pretty much anytime I see anything TNA Impact, I have a problem buying it. Like, I come close to making some pretty dumb decisions before.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when I was collecting, I was close to making some dumb decisions as well, which I can't fault you on.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of deals that just strike up and catch your eye.
Yep.
And what eventually brought you to TCW, Triple Crown Wrestling, and UCW?
I love this story, so I'll tell it.
Sounds good.
It actually started, we went to a TCW. They were doing it at a bowling location in Somerset. And Eric was like, oh, there's local wrestling. We should go support and go check it out and see how it goes. So, our son Max and I and him, we get together and we go and bring our camping chairs. And we see the show. And we had such a good time. It wasn't a big show. There was a crowd, but it was just fun. It was family oriented, and we just had a really good time. And while we were watching the show, one of the guys that hand out the
Chuck.
Chuck, who hands out the brochures and the raffle tickets, he was coming around, and I just asked him a question. I was like, well, how do you become sponsors to TCW? And he's the one who actually brought Brandon to us, and that was the first time we met Brandon. And to be honest, it was a blessing to meet him because not only we're partners, but we became really good friends with him and his wife and his family. And we've just been doing every show since, and we just work really good together.
Exactly. I mean, I've been noticing it because y'all got a great thing going. And when Brad T. Wilson was on here, he gave y'all high praise.
Yeah, we've become pretty close with Brandon and his family, and Terry too. Like the show that she's talking about, it was Jeremy Brake's retirement show. I didn't know who any of the wrestlers were. I've been a wrestling fan since I was a kid. I turned 50 this year, and I've probably been watching it since I was single digits, right? And we've gone to bigger shows. I think probably within months of us dating, I did take her to an independent show in Georgia. It was in Jackson, Georgia. Might get to that later, but anyway, yeah. So that was Jeremy Brake's retirement show at the Family Fun Center golf, mini golf place. I don't know if you've been there in Somerset, but it was entertaining. We had a good time. All the the fans there were very into it, so it made it more fun when you are at those independent shows and you see how much fun all the families are having there, and it made us want to be a part of it. A lot of that's I was heavily involved in the MMA scene in Atlanta.
Good.
So
scene.
When we moved here, there's not a lot of combat sports in Kentucky, especially in the Somerset area. So yes, there is some in Lexington.
Yeah.
I think there's an event here usually about every 2 months or so.
We had a MMA guy come on here
earlier,
really? About 2 months ago. His name was Travis Hudson.
Okay. I don't know him.
And we got another one called William Baber who knows Jacob Ratliff.
Oh, yeah, we've seen Jacob wrestle a couple times. So we got pretty involved with TCW as far as sponsorship goes. That year after that Jeremy Brake show. So we've been in Kentucky for 2 years now. That first year we spent a lot of time with TCW just setting up at the shows, setting up our booth at the shows at any TCW and UCW shows. And then this last year, including 2024 here, we got way more involved in it. I was licensed already for the Athletic Commission in Kentucky as a MMA judge and referee, but I got my license as I wanted to call it stage. What is it called? Staff. My wrestling staff license. So I started, helping them set up and the TCW trailer stays at my house. So I drive the trailer back and forth to all the events, and
Nice.
yeah. I don't help set up the ring. I've been there. We did the fair shows. I helped set it up, but like I said, man, I might look young, but I'm 50, and my leg
You're about the
is
same
beat.
age as Andy.
Yeah. Yeah, my leg is just beat, man. I've had surgery on it twice, and it kills me to lug any of that stuff around. So I help out as much as I can, kind of just watch over and, when they're setting up stuff, help out Brandon or Terry with any of the production stuff that they need. Anybody comes asking a bunch of questions that, they don't need to bother Terry or Brandon with, I try to kind of head that stuff off.
Yeah.
I'll sit in the back and watch production. Like they've got a pretty good guy named Mike Ware running the cameras and sound and stuff. So I sit back and try to learn and watch because like I said, I'm a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And we know the ins and outs of the stuff, but I never want to claim like I'm a part of something that I don't really know about. So I really try to soak up as much as I can off of Brandon and Terry, and even like Jimmy's there. Jimmy Walls is there quite often too. I'm sure you know, but
Yep.
like anything I can learn off those guys that have been around so long. And I'm not trying to be a promoter or anything. I just want to help them out, however I can. Now, I probably won't do as many fair shows as we did last year. Man,
That's a lot of fair shows.
Man,
Yeah,
that wore us out. But I like helping them out. I was just really involved in all that in Atlanta, and when we moved here, that first year we didn't participate in the stuff as much as I did in Atlanta, which was nice. I kind of needed a break, but we're still busy with it nearly every weekend. It seems like.
I mean, it's pretty dedicated because they got a great thing going.
Yeah.
And great action, and you guys are doing your thing there. Me and Amy's been paying attention. That was a stroke of genius for y'all to come together with Brandon T. Wilson and them.
Yeah, it's been good, man. Like the Caverna shows have been awesome. We did the one 2 years ago with The Godfather, and I think that's where I met you guys initially. We helped sponsor that one to help bring in The Godfather on that one, and we set up our booth there. So we did pretty well there. We try to, before we go to those big shows like that, we try to stock up on stuff. Some, like I said, the oddball stuff. Get some, more of the rare stuff, the boxed stuff that you don't see out and about. So I try to stock up on that stuff. This year we did the Caverna show, and both.
We were there as well.
Yeah, that one was awesome. We had a great time at that one.
Big old crowd too.
Yes,
I think that was my favorite show.
No doubt. Bringing in Scott Steiner for that was
Big Papa Pump.
Man.
It was intimidating to meet him, but like when you actually get to talk to him, he's so relaxed, down to earth.
Exactly.
And he's not like, some wrestlers are pretty like
arrogant.
Yeah.
And not as talkative, but he just enjoyed talking. So
he really liked talking about his kids too. So that was pretty cool. He's got two sons. One of them plays football and the other one plays basketball. He talked about Rick's son Braun. So he talked a little bit about him, but like he's very proud of his sons. Like I think one of them plays basketball at Virginia Tech, and man, he's proud of them. And he was nothing like that Big Papa Pump persona that you saw on WCW back in the day. He was a real cool guy.
I feel like he's melted down with age because back then he would have been screaming at the top of his lungs. Now he's more down to earth, can talk to you, have conversation. He's not exactly like he used to be. Now he's taking life how he wanted to do it back then.
Yeah,
so that's a good to see.
I agree with you. It's like it's interesting to see it. Like I feel like back in the day, he's one of those guys that lived his gimmick back in the day. Kind of like Flair does. Flair is Flair.
Yeah, Flair will always be.
Steiner lived that back in the day. Like So, like I said, I'm from Atlanta, but we lived in Marietta, and I don't know if WCW was based in Atlanta in those days,
Yep.
and I used to work at this car dealership, and it's where all the WCW guys would come buy their vehicles from, and I ran into all of them, and he was one of them, but he was on 10 every time we saw him in the service drive. We'd see him at restaurants, but all the time he was on level 10. And I mean, it was nothing like that at the Caverna show, just as cool as could be. We bought a ton of merchandise to get signed by him.
Nice.
We sold it at the show to everybody. Had a little debacle with some figures beforehand too. Like we had ordered
20, I think it was.
it was either 10 or 20 of those elite figures,
Yeah.
and they were pretty hot at that time. It's like when his elite figure first came out, and so we were having him
Yeah.
there, and I was like, man, we're gonna make a killing off this. Well, the shipping was delayed.
Oh man.
They
Post
didn't
office
end up
for you.
showing up until the day of Caverna, and we had to be out there early to set up. So the figures didn't arrive. We didn't have them on hand. We had probably around like 8 or so that between Brandon and I kind of scooped together from like Walmart or whatever.
Yeah.
So we had those, but we had gone to I don't know. Have you been to Toy Headquarters here before? So
Several times.
yeah, so we scooped some from them, maybe a month or so before the show happened, because at that point we didn't, like a month out from, I don't even think we knew who we were bringing in at that point. But
Yeah.
like when we settled on Steiner, man, I was on cloud 9, man. He's like, when I tell you, I'm a huge WCW fan, like, and a huge tag team
Yeah.
wrestling, WCW wrestling fan. So like to have Steiner in there, I was like, this is the best thing ever.
The Steiner brothers.
Yeah, if we could only get Rick in there too. So
Yeah, that would have been good. But if I recall, before the Cabernet Super Show, he had to deal with some issues. So that's why you wouldn't be able to get him at the time.
yeah,
But maybe now that all that's died down, maybe he could be brought in at the next Cabernet. Maybe he could come in for the Cabernet after that one.
we'll see. I'd like to get them both in there at the same time, because man, that's a legendary tag team right there.
We met Booker T. He came to New South and he was doing managing work, and he was down there. I was the only one inside the group that had the guts to go up to him and be like, "I'd like to get you onto the podcast." And he said, "Yeah, let's do it." But Andy was, he was like, "No, I don't want to borrow." I'm thinking, Andy, he said he wants to do it. But if we had gotten that, I would be on cloud 9, because Booker T is Harlem Heat.
Yeah, yep,
Him and Stevie Ray.
yep.
I think the last show we went to for the down there was when Pillman was there.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
at the New South.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picture taken with him.
So it was that one was cool too. Jay Lethal and Moose were there.
Yep.
About a week before, I had no idea that Jay Lethal was going to be there. But have you ever been on Whatnot?
Yep.
We used to sell on there as well. But so either I highly recommend or I highly don't recommend somebody going on there, because if you've got an addictive personality,
Oh, yeah.
you'll end up spending your whole paycheck on there in like 5 seconds.
It's like gambling.
Yeah. So it was probably about a week or two before Lethal was at New South, and I had bought a TNA figure of Jay Lethal, because, like I said, I'm a sucker for TNA figures, but I also like Jay Lethal.
Yep.
I
He's
told
a
him
cool
at
guy.
that show, I was like, he's the MVP. Whatever was that last year? He was the MVP
Yeah.
of
It was-
wrestling period that year.
Yep, it was definitely last year.
Yeah, because he was in Flair's last match,
Yep.
and he helped carry that match. I don't remember. There was something else that he did. Oh, it was he teamed with Briscoe, and I was like, man, this guy, he'll do anything for anybody basically, and he's an awesome wrestler, awesome talker. He's got everything,
Yeah, he does.
So anyway, I'd bought that figure off of Whatnot on some show just because I thought it was cool and I wanted to have it. And then like days later, I saw that he was going to be there, and I was like, man, you can't beat this. So we got to go there and get him to sign that. I bought one of his shirts. We saw Moose there, obviously, and got his autograph.
And Moose is a big old boy, too.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's pretty big.
Like she said, what is he now? Lexus King was
Yep.
there.
Yeah, I got my picture taken with Kelman. I had to. I was like, oh, let me take a picture.
Heck yeah. And also, when they did the baseball, because they did do an event at the Lexington Legends baseball field. Like, it's actually pretty cool. Lex King, a.k.a. Brian Pillman, had to fight Jordan Cage, because at that time Jordan Cage was babyface. Well, actually, he was the heel, and Bobby Blade was the heel. So Brian Pillman was teaming up with the mascot, and the mascot hit a stunner.
That's funny.
Because he got topped by Brian Pillman.
Man, they set up the ring in the middle of the baseball field.
No, we were set up just slightly outside the baseball field, but it was still cool because we all got to go and watch a free baseball game. We got there and set up the ring for them, and we also tore down the ring for them as well. So it was pretty cool, and that was the main event.
That's a lot of work, setting it up and tearing it down.
Oh, trust me, the ring is not for the weak of heart because it is heavy on all sides.
Yeah.
The boards, the metal rails, the ring skirts, and the only easy part was the turnbuckle pads and the ropes.
Yeah.
But everything else, you gotta have muscle to lift.
Yep. Yeah, I don't, but I did it a couple of times at these fair shows because we operate with a pretty limited crew at those shows. I'm sure that Brandon, I know he made mention of his name, Chris Matthews, man, that dude is he's a powerhouse. Like he knows what to do. I don't know if he helps us set up. I say helps. He's the main setup guy and tear down. So it's like he knows what to do. He he directs and guides everybody on what to do at those shows, and then he's there wrestling at night too. So
he's smart.
Yeah, he's awesome. Kevin Sinclair, he helped set up all those times at the fair shows too. Like that was no fun, man. I can tell you.
Yeah. With New South, when me, Sean, went to help them out with Chris Blaze, we had limited crew too. It was like only 4 of us putting it up.
Yeah.
Like me, Amy Presley, Sean Johns, Chris Blaze, and we had Kirkpatrick there to help us out, but
I bet you were wore out afterwards, huh?
Yeah, because we were the only ones doing anything.
Yeah, and the thing, like you said, it's heavy. But one thing about Brandon, he definitely has a good. It's a small team, but he has a great team that puts up the cage, and they're so hardworking. Like they come with their families and they just get there and they start working. They do not play around.
I saw that firsthand when me and Andy had our match.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were sharing the locker room with them. We came in there and we helped out set up the ring.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then Scott Diamond gave us advice. And when Scott Diamond gives you advice, you gotta just stop what you're doing and listen to what he has to say.
Yeah.
And it was actually pretty good advice.
Yeah.
And then backstage when we were inside the locker room, we shared it with Ronnie Roberts. Hell, at one point, I went back there and Chris Matthews were out there at the door. He's just getting ready. He's picking out the door so he can get a gauge of what's happening outside. And I just say hi there and then go outside the door and watch what's happening as I went out there to film, because now I earned my gimmick back. Now I could do what I do best and get out there. Unlike Andy, I sat on my knees and crouched down so I could film outside of the hard cam's view. Mm-hmm. And I only film up on hard cam when Icon Lee, our champion, who holds our title now. That was our first champion, but Icon Lee holds our belt, which is now blue. And he has me come up and film even with the hard cam in view because he wants to get the best shots of what the champion's doing.
Yeah.
That was kind of something that I was make sure not to do at TCW. Because I wanted to make sure that I was inside the view. The only time I went in front of the hard cam was when I go to the other side, crouch down so I could film what Roberts was doing with Chris Matthews.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good experience.
Yeah. Remember, I think I was working the camera at ringside that night or day or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you was.
Thankfully, I don't have to do that a whole lot anymore. We got a guy named Dusty that handles the ringside camera work now.
What was it like to be the ringside cameraman, though?
It's different because you can't really watch the wrestling like you would if you were watching TV or even watching it from the crowd. You have to kind of imagine what you like to see on TV when you're watching it, and so you can't really sit there and watch it. You have to pay attention to what's going on. It does help to like have a pretty decent working knowledge of wrestling, so you can kind of tell like if they're going to be throwing each other off the ropes, and when they're running the ropes, if somebody's climbing the ropes, like is somebody going to come running up behind you? Like you have to kind of pay attention to what's going on around you versus kind of like what's going on exactly in front of you. So
and you also got to make sure that you're not inside the way when the wrestlers actually do come towards you.
Yeah.
That way you can back up with the camera still aiming and getting the shot, because a lot of cameramen, they forget to watch the surrounding, they trip up and the shot goes down and points at the ground.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
One thing that's cool about, and like I've never done any production work with anybody other than TCW, UCW, is that we've got the hard cam and then we've got the ringside cam. So just like understanding that you don't have to get every shot. Just make sure that you're in the right position to get your best shot. That they can switch back and forth between hard cam and the ringside. So. Like, that's just one thing that had to keep in mind. And, I mean, obviously, when Dusty took over doing that ringside camera, both Mike and I kind of gave him pointers as he was going along. Like, not that I'm some kind of cameraman wizard, but,
Yeah, but pointers are good to give out, though.
Yeah.
It helps him out.
Yeah. And we always try to, like... I know it's a smaller independent wrestling show, but we try to do the best that we possibly can do. Like nobody wants to watch a garbage show. Like we want to make sure that we've got the music right and the camera and everything. Like you don't want who wants to go see a show that's done halfway.
Exactly, because there are a lot of shows that call themselves a wrestling promotion. They don't try to make it worthy of the audience to watch.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of my pet peeves, because there are a lot of those types. And I'm like, hire someone that's better at production than what you got right now. Y'all guys are doing it wrong. Because then I go to A&W and you're seeing some good production going on there. TCW's got good production. New South has some good production. New South will be come back in 2025. But they took a break for this year. But when we were going there, it was a blast.
Yeah.
Jay Lethal, Booker T, Rhino, and Andy actually got to talk to him. Rhino wants us to come down to Michigan and film for his company.
Oh yeah.
So that's one of our go-to places that we want to check out.
Yeah, we haven't gone any yet. Like we've gone to several shows in Georgia and Kentucky. I don't think we've been to anything outside of here. I say obviously, if anybody follows all of us, like including you guys, because I know you posted something about it. But we did a show in Nashville this year at the Nashville Sounds baseball stadium. It was a
Tacos and Margarita Festival.
Yeah, tacos and margaritas, and it was in we basically were just helping out James Ellsworth. I guess he's buddies with the guy that runs that Tacos and Margaritas.
The man who gave Andy his sunglasses and then left.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. We took the ring down there and set it up. There were a few wrestlers from TCW, UCW there, and then Ellsworth brought in a few from his wrestling promotion. I forget what it's called. It's like ACW or something, I think. And he's out of Baltimore. Obviously, he's not going to want to trailer a
Yeah.
wrestling ring from Baltimore to Nashville. So,
That's true.
luckily, I guess I'm assuming that they all linked up at because that same show that Steiner was at in Caverna, Ellsworth was there as well and wrestled. So, that was pretty cool. It was cold and it was rainy, and we had a little bit of difficulty getting the ring into the arena
It was a tight
at
squeeze,
first,
for
but
sure.
but it all smoothed out, and it was a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun. We ate a lot of tacos. Eric didn't have margaritas. I did.
Yeah, I didn't have
Nice.
margaritas. We ended up staying. We stayed. Was it 1 or 2 nights there? I don't remember, but
It was 2 nights.
2 nights, and that following, I guess it was on a Sunday. Brandon Wilson and his wife and us two, we went to. Man, I wish I could remember the name of it. It was a smaller town outside of Nashville, and they were having a like a sports memorabilia convention there.
Nice.
So
Oh yeah.
we weren't gonna go originally, but we, like at the last minute, we're like, well, why not? We're already here. Sting was there, Flair was there.
Yeah.
Stroke your luck.
Yeah, Steiner brothers were there. Lex Luger was there.
There was a lot.
There was a lot of baseball, Cincinnati Reds players there. It was like basically days before Pete Rose died.
God bless his soul.
Yeah, so I saw him. Like I was so I was born in Indiana, in Indianapolis. So like the Reds were when I was a little kid, they were kind of like the team, like
Yeah.
because Indianapolis doesn't have a baseball team. But yeah, so I remember all those guys from when I was a kid. But yeah, I didn't plan on getting Sting's autograph. I've got a old school WCW T-shirt of his that I used to wear.
Hell yeah.
So I took it with me just in case we went there, and I got there and I was just like, man, I am not paying $90 for somebody's autograph, and I just debated it, and I was like, okay, how often does Sting go out signing autographs, and how often is Sting out signing autographs 10 minutes from where I already was? And I was like,
Yeah.
I just bit the
can't
bullet.
beat that.
Yeah.
I think the best part of that show is that it was so professional and organized. He got in line so fast. Like, he didn't have to wait there forever. It wasn't a jumble. It was really straightforward, very smooth. They just did a really good job. He was in and out before he even knew it.
Yeah,
That's good service.
Yeah, I don't remember what the name of it was, but it was a good show. It was mainly sports memorabilia, which I look out for that stuff too. We don't just sell wrestling stuff, but so I don't know if we didn't even buy anything there. I bought a Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine that I had Buff Bagwell sign
You
while I was
can't
there.
beat that.
I had a pretty decently long conversation with Buff. I don't know if you've been following him lately, but
Buff Bagwell.
yeah, he's had several hardships,
Yep.
Alcoholism and probably prescription pills or whatever. But he's come out of it. He had a couple of leg surgeries, helped with from DDP. I don't know if it's recent, because I don't really remember that well, but we talked about his salvation and how he's either in church or back in church. It was an interesting conversation with him, because I just last year in April got saved, so we're both kind of being reintroduced to Christ and all. So it was a cool conversation to have with him, because we didn't just sit there and talk about wrestling, even though that's man, I wasn't a big Buff fan when I was during that time, but yeah, he was in the NWO. He's a big one of the bigger names back then.
Yeah.
Pretty cool guy. He was one of those guys that was really arrogant and full of himself back then. But man, what a
personal. He was
a down to earth dude. He really talked about his new girlfriend a lot. How she's kind of tamed him and gotten him back into church and stuff. So that was
Nice.
really cool to have that conversation with him there.
he finally came around because back then, when he was the stuff, he was pretty arrogant.
Yeah.
And that's before the NWO became so clouded with nothing but guys that more often than not lost every match.
Yeah.
All they had was Buff Bagwell, Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Scott Steiner, Stevie Ray. Those guys were cream of the crop, but then you got guys that shouldn't have been inside the NWO, but they were.
Like Virgil?
Yeah. God rest his soul as well.
Yeah, that got a little bit crazy back then. That's so I've had some periods where I like stopped and started watching wrestling. Yeah. Like I said, I've been a fan since I was a kid. When we lived in Indianapolis, we didn't have cable. My parents weren't wealthy enough to have cable.
Yeah.
So I feel like the only times that I ever saw wrestling is when they would do those Saturday night main events, and oddly enough, aren't they doing it this Saturday?
They are.
So,
this Saturday night, Jesse Ventura is back.
that's what I saw. And Cody's bringing back the Winged Eagle.
It looks
for
like
night.
it.
Yeah, so I'd watch it on whenever they do that, which was not very frequent. I don't know if you.
They didn't do it as frequently. Back then, it was more like a special time show.
Yeah. So I'd watch some WWF back then occasionally, and I don't even remember who some of my WWF favorites. I guess I liked The Undertaker back then.
When he came and debuted in 1990 Survivor Series.
Yeah. So we moved to Atlanta when I was 10, so that'd been 40 years ago. And when we moved to Atlanta, it was I think it was still NWA back then.
Yeah, they were still National Wrestling Association. That's before it started waning down, and it disappeared for a while, and then it came back, and it disappeared again before finally Billy Corgan said, "I'm going to buy the company," and now look at it, it's driving more than it was back then.
Yeah, they're doing well.
They got Carson Drake.
Yes, that's where I'm trying to think of his name, L.A. Knight, before he was L.A. Knight, wasn't he on there?
When he was Eli Drake still, he was there. Not to mention, L.A. Knight is basically an anagram for Eli Drake.
Yeah.
So he basically kept his name just with a change.
And he's blown up pretty big too.
Yeah, he is.
I think that's probably the only that's the only show that I haven't seen that's kind of like a big-ish show. Like we've been to TNA, I've been to Ring of Honor, I've been to New Japan. I think everything other than an NWA show, which is ridiculous because they were filming in Atlanta when we were there. Like they were filming almost every other week when we lived there, and I never went to a show.
Well, now's the chance, because if they ever come back to Oak Grove, Kentucky, I recommend going, because me and Sean, we went there twice. First time was 2021. We went to Oak Grove, Kentucky for NWA. It was a damn good show, and the second time was where we saw Tom Latimer get busted open. And also we saw Matt Cardona steal the NWA championship from Trevor Murdoch after making them bleed. That was a hell of a show.
I bet that was entertaining.
So I recommend that if it ever comes back to Oak Grove, that's your chance to go.
Where's Oak Grove?
Oak Grove, Kentucky. You have to look it up.
Man,
I mean,
that one.
It's basically a three-hour drive.
Hey, it's another excuse for a road trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like little getaways. And
exactly.
Every time we get away, we always try to find like antique shops or toy shops, because we just like collecting. And if we could flip it, why not flip it?
Exactly. Then why not? Because Oak Grove, Kentucky might have some collectible areas too.
Yeah, we got lucky this past weekend. My work's Christmas party was on Friday, so we drove down to Atlanta for that, and stayed overnight on Friday and Saturday night, and got lucky on Saturday that there was a toy, they called it a toy swap meet out in front of an antique mall, and I really didn't expect it to be that big because, like, what do you think of a little toy swap going on in front of an antique mall? But it filled up the parking lot. We got some stuff there.
I got my favorite I'm from Chicago. I was raised in Chicago, and my favorite is Dennis Rodman. And I got a Barbie doll, you would say, because it was a Barbie doll. It was from 1998, and it was still in the box. The box was beat, but I scored for $8. I got that sucker.
Heck yeah.
We still got it up in
That's a steal.
our office. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we picked up that. I don't even we got some of those little micro brawlers. We've already sold one of them. I think I don't even remember who it was, but we picked up those, those little micro brawler guys. But yeah, we sold one of those already. I'm trying to think of some of the other stuff we got, but I'm drawing a blank right now.
We got a couple stuff.
I listed everything on our eBay site, so like.
Yeah.
I guess I've kind of failed to mention that, but like Phenomenal Phinds ATL is if you go there, it has the links to everything, all of our social media and our on our eBay store. That's where we sell everything.
Heck yeah.
So like if you go to Phenomenal Phinds ATL and if you forget the ATL, we've also got phenomenalfinds.com. So like if you go to either one of them, it's going to give you the links to everything. So like anything that we've bought at all of our little trips, it's on there.
Nothing beats a good trip to find some rare collectibles.
Yeah.
And like Eric said, we don't just do wrestling. We do everything under the umbrella, like shoes, vintage clothing, vintage toys, like cups.
That's right.
The other day I found it was a water bottle from the 90s, and it was The Simpsons, and I was like,
nice.
How often do you find Simpson things that are from the 90s that is well taken care of? And I think I paid $1 for it, so I was like, I cannot not get it.
Now that's a
$1. Yes,
exactly.
and definitely for my part of the company of Phenomenal Finds is I'm the bargainer. I'm the
nice.
Eric used to do it full time. When we first started, he was doing it full time because I was working full time, and he was working full time too, but he was more hands on it until I got more involved when we moved to Kentucky, and now I do it full time and Eric does it part time. But
nice.
What we like doing together is we like thrifting, yard sales. We like going to these toy conventions together because we enjoy that time together. And then also seeing all the cool stuff, We even take our son Max, and he just enjoys seeing these old toys. And he's like, just him experiencing, looking at things from back then, it's awesome,
Yep, and you can't beat that.
Exactly. And, I'm originally from Mexico, and I hate to say it, but wheat is cheap. We do not like spending money.
Yeah.
So when it comes to buying things, I will pay just little to nothing when it comes to things. So I'm really good at negotiating, and I'm very people-oriented. So, I just get to talk to them and kind of negotiate down the price, and I get really good deals. And I think that's why we make such a good team, because he has an eye for things, but I'm the negotiator. I get the price done.
That works because you need a good team.
Yeah. Yeah, so our main focus as far as buying goes, it is the vintage toy market. It's the stuff that we like to buy and sell. But we do a lot of vintage clothing as well. And I say vintage, a lot of people don't know vintage in our world is stuff that's 20 years or older. So even stuff that is 2004 is considered vintage right now.
Yep.
So
they also don't even know what retro is.
Yeah. So you got some of those old Jinko jeans lying around that you bought from Hot Topic. That's the stuff that's cool right now. So all the stuff that people like Slipknot, Korn, this type of stuff, that's considered vintage, and it's cool right now, and it's coming back. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
It's one of the harder things about what we do is trying to stay with the trends, because stuff changes, and how everything eventually comes back around. It seems like when we first started this, a lot of the 80s and 90s stuff was the more popular kind of stuff to buy. The mesh back trucker hats and snapback stuff like that. And now it's just starting to get where that stuff they're not really looking for those old snapbacks anymore. Those fitted hats that people they're coming back now. So it's like,
because I got a fitted hat.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that like the corduroy and like all
the
different.
workwear, like Carhartt, stuff like that.
Bucket hats.
Yeah.
So it always changes. And I'm from the 90s, and for me, when we go out, I want to keep everything that I find from the 90s when it comes to toys.
I'm from 1989, so I understand because I'd be looking at the 90s too.
My childhood is all the Furbies, the Lisa Frank stuff, the Casper items and Goosebumps. That was all my favorite things.
I had a lot of that stuff too. From the wrestling figures, the Power Rangers, because I got the original Tommy that I had.
Yeah.
That would change his head from White Ranger to Tommy.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot.
The Transformers.
I think we have one of those Power Rangers right now, but it's not Tommy, it's the Red Ranger.
Yeah, the red one.
Everyone always likes that guy.
Oh yeah, Tommy was the one that really knew martial arts. Like he even he had some MMA fights, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he did. He wanted to fight CM Punk, but CM Punk never came to agreement.
That's Jason David Frank. He passed on too, right?
Yep, he did.
It was recent, like within the past couple of years.
Red Ranger, he's still around.
Yeah.
Austin St. John, him and Jason David Frank actually had a feud in real life with each other, but apparently he's buried underneath the bridge. But
okay,
I saw him recently using Tommy's morpher instead of his morpher. And I'm thinking, oh, he lied to us. Why, Jason? Why? Then again, Rhea Repulsa got to him.
Yeah, she did.
It always makes me sad though, like when you think about the things that you used to have when you were younger, and then you see how much they sell now. You're like, oh my God, I should have kept it. I would have been a millionaire.
Yeah.
Like some of the things when I was a child, like the Lisa Frank stuff.
Yeah.
The Lisa Frank little book bags from the 90s or the 80s, they sell for thousands of dollars, and I'm like, I had that.
Yeah.
And that would have had you a good fortune.
Exactly. That's what happened to Eric. He had back in his day when he was a teenager, he used to have all those Rock Band t-shirts, and he would tell me, oh my God, I had that shirt, and then you see it sells for like $500-$600. I'm like, wow.
Oh, man.
That's all I used to do when I was in high school, and I shortly after after I was out of high school, I was in the Marines, and that's all I ever did was go to concerts with my friends. So like I had Pantera shirts, White Zombie, like you name it, I had it. And I go online sometimes and look at them, or I'll be on Whatnot watching one of the shows, and I'll see how much those shirts sell for, and I'm like, man, I was sitting on a fortune back then.
But that's the thing, though. Back then, in the 70s, 80s, 90s era, they never teach you, hey, about holding your things, taking care of your things, because, later it's going to be worth something. They don't teach you that. So it's like, I wish back then they would have teached us how it works, or to value your things, because, we would, play it until the head popped off, and, nowadays with my son, he sees what we do and he enjoys it as well, and in a way we kind of teach him hey, he's really into Beyblades. Nice. So I'm like, one day I'm sure those Beyblades because he spends over $20 just to get a pro one, and I'm like, save your Beyblades, because you never know how much they're going to be worth once they're 30 or 40 years of age, and in a way I always encourage parents now, teach your children to value things, to save things. Even you might not think it's worth something, but with time things become valued.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened to me. I had comic books that I got, and they've been torn up, and those comic books could have been worth a fortune.
Yeah. If
they've been taken care of. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, whoever had this before me did not care for their comic books.
Yeah.
Because it's the old Spider-Woman comics. Mm-hmm. I have at least 20 of them inside my comic book collection thing. I had this original Superman comics that took place after Superman's death, where he was going to a place like Krypton from a alternate universe with his wife Lois Lane, and I'm thinking to myself, if they just taken care of this comic book, I could have sold that, because now it would have been worth a fortune for me.
I was I was good about keeping stuff like that. I guess I would call myself a mild hoarder, but I'm pretty good about keeping stuff organized and cleaned. And I kept all of my comic books from when I was a little kid. I even very recently I put them all up on a wall in our little eBay office that we've got. I got a bunch of them graded a couple of years ago.
Nice.
And even the ones that I had as when I was 6-7 years old, it was when Spider-Man first gained that black suit that ended up turning into Venom.
Secret Wars.
They're graded, but they're below a 1 because I read them over and over and over again. But I couldn't get rid of them because I just love Spider-Man, but I kept all of my comic books. I don't think I sold one of them. So like that, I think that's really I've kept some of the sports cards that I've had over the years. I've got a lot of memorabilia from different fights and stuff. Like I worked for the Athletic Commission in Kentucky too, where
and you're friends with the Kentucky Commissioner.
Yeah, yeah, they're good guys. Like I enjoy working with them. I'd worked the UFC when they were here a couple of months ago as in Georgia we called them inspectors, but here they call them bout assistants. So you basically just sit back there and watch in the locker room and watch the fighters wrap their hands, make sure that they're not eating or drinking anything they shouldn't do. But I've picked up some memorabilia from that. That was the first time I ever got to work at UFC. But yeah, I've got stuff like that, stuff from big boxing fights that were in Atlanta. Like we're collectors on top of buying and selling, but so that's like something that makes it pretty rough sometimes. Like how do I avoid holding on to stuff? Because I always tell Carla, sometimes she's got a soft spot for me. Like I'll buy something that I probably shouldn't buy, and she'll like, oh, you should just keep it. And I'm like, Carla, I'm not running a museum. And I don't want a museum. Like I have kind of my specific stuff that I'll hold on to, and I've had to do that. I think you asked that early on. Is like, how do I avoid having some big collection of stuff? Like I love pro wrestling, but if we kept everything that we ran across pro wrestling wise, man, like we'd have to move into another house.
Yes.
So I kind of keep it specific, and will sell pretty much anything else that doesn't go into my little niche. Like for some reason I've got a love for those WCW Toy Biz Marvel figures. So I've got my collection of those. I collect Chris Jericho figures,
nice.
Hall and Nash, the Steiners.
You always got to collect those.
Yeah.
Sting.
I have a couple of Sting, but
Penta.
I've got my Penta collection, my AJ Styles collection, and the AJ Styles is where we got Phenomenal from, by the way. That's
Heck yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, so the Phenomenal Phinds actually came. The Phenomenal Phinds ATL came from AJ Styles, my favorite active wrestler.
Sure he is.
He's not really active right now, is he?
Oh, he's active still, but
he's on the roster, but he hasn't been. Is he? I don't know if he's injured or
he's
whatever.
wrestled a couple of times so far since coming back from injury.
Gotcha. So we don't like. Yeah, so that came from AJ Styles, Phenomenal, and then the ATL, obviously, because we're from ATL.
Yep.
People have asked, are we going to drop it since we don't live in ATL anymore? But I tell them, as long as we go back to ATL and do some sourcing, we're going to keep the ATL. So we just went there on Saturday.
That's how it started. I said we don't need to change it.
Exactly. Why should you drop the ATL? I think that it fits the name.
Yeah, I like it.
Just put KY next to it. No.
I think.
Yeah, but that kind of throw it off.
KY.
I think if I had to go back in time and redo it, I wouldn't have named it Phenomenal Phinds ATL, because when you tell somebody, hey, just go to phenomenalphindsatl.com, okay, so how do I spell phenomenal? And I'm not trying to be funny or belittle anybody, but phenomenal is not a word that you go around spelling every day, right?
But I think the one that's throwing them off is
The Phinds.
The Phinds, because we
PH.
didn't put the F exactly. I thought it was catchy. I thought it was fun.
I liked it though because all they gotta do is put PH instead of F.
Yeah, but I tell Eric we gotta start carrying stickers to be passing around because not everybody's gonna know it's a PH.
Yeah.
They're always gonna think, oh, he's talking about phenomenal finds, Finds.
Right.
Yeah. So I think when we first started, and I would do, I don't know, we would do whatnot shows every once in a while, and if I would do any social media or
YouTube
whatever,
videos.
I'd have to tell them it's phenomenal finds, PH. But it's not very easy to remember or easy to get to. So yeah.
But it's catchy though.
It is. I'm not changing it, but that's also why I grabbed a hold of phenomenalfinds.com, because a lot of people, I do know this for a fact, they were forgetting to put the ATL on it.
Yeah.
So I grabbed that website as well. So maybe I should grab Phenomenal Finds, both spelled with F's too. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, just in case people thought that phenomenal was spelled with an F.
Yeah. So, Carla said we basically reversed roles as far as the business goes. Is I used to do a lot of the sourcing, packaging, and everything in my off time, because I work a full-time job on top of what we do with the business, and so our roles kind of reversed over the last couple of years here. She's basically does almost everything now. The only time that I do anything is when we're sourcing stuff.
On the weekends.
Yeah. And then if there's something oddball that needs to be packed, some of my favorite things to pick up are golf bags.
Nice.
Or big gigantic electronic equipment.
I always make him pack the big stuff. I'm like, I ain't doing that. You do it. So I have an Eric pile and then the Carla pile. So the Eric pile, he handles the big bulky things. 'Cause, no.
Yeah. So I will say that's one of the things that I would say we take pride in is, we operate this business like it's, like it's our sole source of income. We don't skimp on anything. We make sure everything's cleaned and tested and working properly. If it's not, then we make sure that it's listed in the description. We take photos of any flaws of anything, because even people will buy broken stuff that's got tears or holes in it. Even beat shoes people will buy because they want to use the parts off of them or whatever. So don't pass up on something because it looks like trash or whatever, because somebody will still buy it.
People will buy it.
As long as you describe it properly, they know what they're getting. And then I will say that one of the things that we take great pride in is our packaging of the items and shipping them out in a timely manner, because even though it's just her and I, and I would bet that anybody that came in, looked at our site, bought anything off of us, they would never in a million years think it was just her and I. You would think that we had employees doing this, because we just make sure that everything's packaged properly. We get most of our feedback on eBay is in relation to how well the stuff was packed and how quickly they get it.
Because you're presenting it in a timely manner, how it should be, because most people don't do that.
Yeah.
Most people just go it around.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we experience that too, because we sell so much on eBay. 99% of the time when I buy something online, I buy it off of eBay, and so when I get something that's not packaged properly or isn't as it's described, I hate it. But
I would too.
My favorite from packaging is from Amazon. They'll pack something so small in a big old box, and it's just rattling in there. I'm like, what is their problem? I'm like, they just look at what's the biggest box to put this little box in.
Yeah.
It cracks
dealt
me
with
up.
that.
Or sometimes the tape is not completely on, so it's the box is half open. So it's just like, really? Like, you don't even know if you lost anything or if anything fell out.
Yeah.
You know, so that really, it bums me out. So
Me
that's
too.
why we take our time to package it right, make sure it's not rattling in there because we don't want to get it damaged. And like Eric said, we get really good reviews, and we take pride
Smart
on
business
it.
sense too.
Yeah.
And that brings more business or referrals, or they come back and buy from us because
Exactly.
they like our business.
Exactly, because y'all are taking care of what you're giving to them, because other people don't do that.
Yeah.
Even Amazon.
And I think we sell similar items that other people might sell on eBay too. But the difference about us is that, you know, we're very transparent about the item. We take really good pictures so the buyer sees what they're getting, but not just seeing, they read what's going on with it. You know, and we also have reasonable prices because we know maybe this item is listed so many times for so many amount. So we don't try to like list it for the same amount. We try to go a little under because we don't mind making a little less than what they would make because they're just sitting on it forever and ever. And like Eric said, we're not a storage unit. We want to sell. We want to keep things moving, and that's why we're reasonable on prices.
Exactly. And that's smart business sense too, because it's going to make them want to come to y'all for all their necessary needs.
Yeah.
They're not going to be looking at anyone else.
Or their unnecessary needs.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
But hey, when you're a collector,
Yeah.
everything's going to be unnecessary, but you need it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Even the crazy novelty things, you know.
Yep.
Pickle pen.
The way I look at it is like I don't consider us in competition with other eBay people. Like I consider us in competition with Amazon, and like Amazon, you can go on there today and buy something. It'll be at your door in 5 hours. So like I want to, and like Carla feels the same way. Is like if we had somebody on Thursday last week buy something on Thursday night, and they messaged us and said, "Hey, I really need this for they said it was a Disney bandana." They're like, I really need this for an interview I've got with Disney on, I think it was on Tuesday or something. I was like, can you ship it out tomorrow? And we had already shipped for that day. We didn't plan on it, but I was like, it's not going to kill us to ship a bandana out. So like,
Yeah.
we went ahead and packed it and then took it to the post office the next morning for them. Like that's, I mean, it seems to be like, you would think that was common sense for somebody to do something like that so you
Exactly.
can get repeat business. Yeah, that's typical for what we'll do. Like, if we can get it out sooner than even what we're supposed to, we will.
And with that, with the messages on eBay, from me being an eBay buyer, I've had some sellers that don't even respond to you. And you're asking questions, you're doing this, and you're doing that, no response. So it's just like, oh gosh, you know. So the thing I like about me and Eric is that we're really hands-on. We're really customer-oriented. We always make sure everyone's taken care of. If they have any questions, we answer it right away. We don't wait forever to answer. So that's what I like.
Because that's smart business strategy. Why do what other people doing? Because no one else is going to be talking to their customers that's saying, hey, is this for sale? And they're just sitting there quiet, not doing anything for the person.
Yeah.
And then when the person does get the gift that they ordered, it's damaged.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like what she's talking about with Amazon. Big box, small item inside.
Mm-hmm.
And that small item can sometimes be damaged because that big box is just letting it rattle around.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, this is something that we always take care of. Selling at the shows offers its own unique set of challenges, man. Like I don't remember if you guys made it to that. It was a UCW show where Ricky Morton was there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of I don't remember what school it was at. A school pretty recently, but
I don't think we were able to make that one.
and we set up there, and I think it took us like 4 hours to set up. Like we've got a lot of stuff now. We actually we set up at our first con this year too. So I don't know if you've heard of Cumberland Con.
I've heard about that.
This year was their second year, and we set up there. And I mean, we had a good time. We sold a decent amount of stuff, but man, like,
We just have so much stuff.
yeah, like
just
and it
setting
was,
up.
we only brought our wrestling stuff there too. So like, we've got, like, it looks like a pop culture explosion in our house.
Nice.
So, but we only brought our wrestling stuff, and initially we agreed to a 10 by 10 space. Thankfully, there was extra space where we set up because we needed every last bit of it, man. Like, I swear we probably had a 10 by 20 area set up.
Nice.
And
we had a TCW wrestler.
yeah, so we're lucky enough to have Brandon Wolf there.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, he came there for a couple hours. So before, because he actually worked 2 shows, man. So that dude is like, he's a straight up guy. Like, you ever had him on here?
Yeah, not yet.
Man,
we do plan to get him on here soon, sometime.
That day he came out there for, I think it was like 2 hours, and signed autographs at that show. He wrestled in Mount Vernon, and then he drove after Mount Vernon to Ferguson and wrestled that same day. So like, he was booked that day, man, and that is a dude that knows how to promote himself too.
Hell yeah, he does.
He's a real good guy, man. Like,
we shared the locker room with him.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He interacts with all the fans, like, you can imagine all the little fangirls running around, like, trying to get hub up on him and stuff. But he's a good dude. He's a straight up guy, like, I enjoy being around people like that.
What's up, Tuppy Jr.? Also, he's got autism, and he does pretty damn good even with that. Yeah. He's got all of his Puzzle Paw shirts and tattoos and necklaces. Puzzle Paw necklace from him.
Yeah.
In support of them.
Now that's one thing that we both have a tendency to do, is like any of the local, and I know I'm pretty sure you said something about it like a year ago too. Like, you're purging your entire wrestling attire closet, and just, you're gonna have nothing but independent wrestling gear now, right? So like, we try to buy any of the guys' merch. Like, I have a Deputy shirt on right now.
Heck yeah. Too bad that Terry D Deputy kind of took a step back so far, because he's a hell of a wrestler.
Oh man, Deputy's a trip. That's so that's one thing that I miss about being just a sponsor of TCW, because like, when we were a sponsor, we'd go out there and set up our merch, and we don't do that a whole lot anymore. Is set up our merch stuff, because we're busy helping out with the production of it all. So when we would set up out there, I was still a fan, right? So I would be out there in the crowd, kind of getting everything riled up, yelling and booing at Stan and Deputy, and Flynn Hendricks was another one of my favorites to yell at. Like,
Flynn Hendricks Entertainment.
Yeah. So like, I had a great time being a fan, and but now you can't be hollering and booing at people when you're sitting in the production area or operating the camera, right?
That's true.
So that is one thing I miss. But man, like, while I'm on that topic, I will say that we have way more fun at these independent shows than we do when we've gone to several AEW shows, and we've gone to a couple of WWE.
Same here.
But I always have way more fun at the independent shows. Like, they're
small, but they're good.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, they are.
More interaction with everybody. So like, it's definitely more fun. Don't get me wrong. Like, we have fun at the big shows too.
Yeah, but the independent shows are where it's at. Because nowhere else can you interact with the wrestlers as well as you can at independent show.
Yep.
One show that was my favorite, that was a big show, was the AEW, and it was in Corbin, and they called my son. It was Derby Allen.
Nice.
And
Orange Cassidy too.
And Orange Cassidy, and they got Max, our son, up in the stage, and it was awesome.
Yeah, he was in the ring.
Sean was at that show too.
I think so like that was shortly after we came here, if I remember correctly, and I think I saw Sean up in the like we were walking around, and I recognize you guys whenever we go somewhere, but I think at that point we didn't even know anybody, but like I'd turn on the podcast and I noticed him from there, but yeah. That was a good time at the AEW show. They pulled Max out of the crowd because I don't know, you can't see him right now, but he likes to.
Yep,
he's always got his hoodie like this. So Darby's all dark and mysterious and stuff. Like they're looking for a kid that looked kind of like, had that look.
They pulled another kid that looked just like Orange Cassidy, and then they're like, let's find someone for Derby.
Yeah, so they had him in there. I would say I've had some really good moments independent wrestling shows. I don't know. Do you consider Derby City Wrestling?
Yep.
Do you still consider that independent?
I would consider it partially independent, but also partially big show as well.
Yeah.
Because they're
pretty
production big. like TV wrestling.
Yeah.
But it also has independent feel too as well.
Yeah. So in Atlanta, that guy he puts on shows like nationwide. In Atlanta, they went by Championship Wrestling in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that in Atlanta anymore, but we went to a show there one time. We've been to a couple. I've got a friend in Atlanta that wrestles. We went to the show basically to support him. He retired last year, but he went by Alexander Koloff. He was part of the Koloff dynasty.
Yep, I know about him.
Okay, so he's a buddy of mine. We went there to kind of just support him. And there was some wrestler there, and I was booing him, and I was just giving it to him. And he came over as he was walking out of the ring, and he comes over and he as close as us, and he flips me off. And Max, I mean, this was a few years ago. It was like 3 years ago. He was terrified that dude was going to find me and beat the crap out of me. Like, he was like, why'd that guy do that to her? Like, he was so freaked out over it. It was hilarious.
Max's first official wrestling show. Because me and Max, before I got with Eric, we weren't wrestling fans. I mean, I watched wrestling when I was younger, but I wasn't a huge fan.
You watched Disney movies together.
Yeah, we like Disney movies. And
that's right.
And now that, we got into the world of Eric, he's the one who introduced us more to wrestling and then wrestling shows and wrestling merchandise. So it was our first show going, and I'm telling you, Max was worried. He was like, stop, don't do anything.
I think it was that same show. Have you ever heard of Manny Lemons?
Yep.
So he was wrestling that night, and he came into the ring and he had lemons in his fanny pack, and he pulled one of them out. It was it was cut already, was it not? He pulled one out and he threw it into the crowd, and I had a drink in one hand, and I just reached up and I grabbed a hold of it.
He catched the lemon.
I caught it one-handed. I got a shout out on from the announcers. It was pretty funny. That was a good one, and then we also
Max's favorite wrestler there was
Juicy Finau. Nice. You know about him?
Yeah, I've heard about him.
Samoan, the new Samoan SWAT team, I think they call it. But he teamed with one of the Inouye brothers. I don't know which one, but that was
there's a bunch of them.
Yeah. We had a good time. We went to let's escape. So when COVID happened and WWE had shut down and they had released a bunch of wrestlers, Gallows and Anderson, Heath Slater, Cardona and Myers, like they had released all those guys. And then I don't know if you remember during that time, but Gallows was holding events in his backyard.
Yep, he
and
was.
They were filming. They were filming the event, but they would do a lot of like playing around and stuff too.
Playing their characters that they create for their podcast.
Yeah. So my buddy Alexander Koloff, he used to go by Tyson Dean before he was part of the Koloffs, and him and Gallows are buddies, and like Gallows, I don't think it still exists, but they had Good Brothers Dojo down there in they say Atlanta, but it was really in like Jackson, Georgia. So they were buddies, and we would, anytime that my buddy Tyson or Alexander, if you want to call him that, was wrestling, I'd try to go see him. Cool guy. His wife also makes gear. Gear Gal Wrestling, I think is what it's called, but she's made gear for Gallows, Rhino, like all those guys.
Hell yeah.
So anyway, we went to a event. It was in a baseball field there. We did that one, and then we did another one where it was the Kolov dynasty, and obviously they come out with the chains and the CCCP and the hammer and sickle and all that stuff. Well, Cardona and Myers were at that show, and they came out all USA'd up with the flag, and like it was like
classic.
Yeah, it's like Hulk Hogan during like when he would I'm the real American. It was,
with the red and yellow.
Yeah, it was like you combined Hogan and Duggan and like combined them all into one and put them out there. It was ridiculous. But Carla got to take her picture with Gallows and Anderson. That was another.
And I got their sign.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a cool one too.
Did you know that Carl Anderson used to wrestle here in Kentucky?
Really? I did not know that.
For the Mountain Wrestling Association.
I did not know that.
In fact, the man behind you in that picture, Donnie Green, who's been on the show several times, was part of that promotion. And they used to rip the hell out of Carl Anderson.
Wow. I had no idea.
To the point that he had breakdowns and say, "Get me out this show. I can't do this no more." They're trying to frame me and everything. Yeah. Carl Anderson was basically, he got his start here in Kentucky.
I had no idea.
That's something that even I didn't have no idea about. And Abyss even wrestled here. When he's Chris Justice, he was wrestling here for NWA and all that. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, that was definitely something weird for me when we moved here because, like I said, in Atlanta, I was I worked for the Athletic Commission, and I also worked for the biggest MMA promoter in the Southeast down there. It's a National Fighting Championship. They actually have a show tomorrow night, but
NFC.
That's where I learned like a lot of this setup and all that stuff because I was when we lived down there, I was kind of in charge of setting up the cage and all that and making sure that everything was like where it needed to be. I was like the handyman, like if something went wrong, I was fixing it or whatever. But so that's where I learned most of this stuff from, and so like. That was a big change for us when we came here because I was working for him setting up the shows, and he'd do shows every month. He's still doing them, but so we were either setting up shows every month or I worked as an inspector and a judge and a referee like one or two times when I was in Atlanta. So I was always like every weekend we were doing something combat sports related. Yeah, it was rarely were wrestling anything. So when we moved here, before we moved, I looked at the Athletic Commission website just to see upcoming events because I was like, okay, I'd become a referee probably about I'll just say 6 months before we moved here, and I'd gone through some not wrestling referee, MMA. So I gone through training and got ABC certified and all that, and I'd only worked I think I worked 2 shows, and I was kind of disappointed that I liked doing it, and I was going to come here. Yeah. So I needed to get acquainted with the Athletic Commission and stuff. So the commissioner down there emailed Matt, the commissioner here, told him I was coming, and just keep me open for any shows that were coming up. I go on the commission website to look at upcoming events, and there is no MMA, boxing, kickboxing, or nothing like it was. Man. There's like 3 or 4 wrestling events going on every weekend in Kentucky. So I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? And I do work the events here. I think it was like 2 weekends ago. I was a judge at MMA NLC It wasn't the one, they just did one here at Rupp
Yeah.
Arena. So one before that, it was like in Ashland, Kentucky, or what is it, Catlettsburg or something like that.
Yeah, one of those.
So that was something that was strange. You know, like we went from doing MMA all the time to coming here, and it's not like they have it in Lexington and Louisville, but not really anywhere outside of that.
It's weird that we don't got a lot of boxing and MMA in Kentucky. We're trying to change that.
Yeah, so that is something. I heard that they're trying to bring amateur boxing back. It's something that's been on the table for several years, I guess, here.
Yeah, because we need it.
Yeah.
Because not only do we got wrestling, but we need some boxing. We need more MMA in Kentucky because I'm tired of people acting like Kentucky ain't got nothing. We've had professional wrestling for years. It's time for us to also have boxing and also MMA so that the world can know you're watching Kentucky boxers, Kentucky MMA fighters kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah. That's something that's something really cool that happened this last year is that like I don't remember where it was. It could have been in Lexington, that LFA, it was an MMA show. I don't remember if it may have been at Rupp Arena. I don't even remember. But we went to it. So I worked at LFA show as a judge, and then we did it so well. Like the commission here operates like a well-oiled machine at these shows. Right? So, like we have a guy that's MMA they call him an MMA coordinator, but he heads up the entire shows and kind of sets everything up there and make sure that everybody's where they belong. And then obviously we've got the commissioner, Matt Bird, also. So
Matt Bird?
So that LFA show ran so well and so smoothly that, LFA is if you want to call it a feeder to UFC.
Yeah.
So they had communicated, obviously, with UFC how well the commission took care of stuff, and it was like a month or two is when the UFC booked Louisville.
I mean, that's the smartest thing that you can do. Our commissioners, they do a great job.
Yeah. And they also had they had the ABC convention here this year. It was in July, so they had like 5 days of boxing, MMA, bare knuckle, like all the training classes and everything.
Love bare knuckle.
Man, I love that too.
That bare knuckle is ruthless.
So they were there. Bare knuckle was in Atlanta last Friday. It was when we were down there, but it was my work's Christmas party. A bunch of my buddies were fighting on that card, and I didn't get to see it. But yeah. That is one of the few, like, I don't watch a ton of MMA anymore unless it's the end of,
Same thing.
Obviously I work the shows, and then anytime I've got friends of mine that are fighting, I'll watch them. It's rare that I'll stay up and watch a UFC because I'm not staying up until 2 a.m. to see something. But
Exactly.
And then I was disappointed in that Logan Paul.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Jake Paul.
We stayed. Jake Paul. I'm sorry. I said Logan Paul.
Yeah, we all.
We stayed up so long.
Yeah.
And I was like, this was crap.
And you know what? It was rigged because
It was rigged.
Because like Mike Tyson said, he gets paid more to lose than to win. And as soon as I was like, oh god. And we should have known because Jake Paul was who sponsored the event.
And you know what? There was one shot or one moment where, like, Mike Tyson could have punched him because Jake was like kind of falling back a little bit, but he could have just punched him, but he stopped himself.
Yeah, because if you notice, he punched him one time with this hand, and then he could have followed up with his injured right hand.
He would have been out. He would have
Exactly. But because he's been paid $20 million, he had to buy his glove, and he's trying everything inside the world not to knock this man out.
We made a bet. We had a bunch of friends over at our house because we had a viewing party, and then we had a kind of a potluck party, and we made a bet, me and Eric. I was going for Mike Tyson.
Me too.
Obviously, he was going for Jake. And I said, if you win, you get a massage. You get a full body massage. If I win, I get a massage. And I had to pay up.
Yeah. Because Mike Tyson, he let us down because Jake Paul offered him all that money.
And I saw clips of him, exercising or practicing, and he looked like a beast.
But then when he's out inside the actual
It
fight,
was
none of
nothing.
that. For 2 minutes.
He wasn't even like, he was just tap 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 tap.
I can look good on Instagram for 30 seconds.
That's true. You could have at least tried to better punch than what he was, because when he was out there, he's like,
Yeah, it was tap tap.
or he just stand there, and for most of the round he just be doing this
Yeah.
He's
the
tired.
whole time.
He's elderly. That's why.
Oh, he is not there, because when he was out there sparring, he was whooping ass.
He had fire.
But
that funny clip.
He's wore out.
No, he wasn't wore out. What happened was Jake Paul's like, I don't want you to knock me out, so
He didn't
Mike,
want to get embarrassed. That's
you're
the
making
thing.
$20 million, Mike. Don't knock me out, brother. If you do, that $20 million ain't gonna be $20 million, brother. I'm gonna get that down to $8 million. Wait till we get that 20.
I'll tell you something though. The girl fight before that horrible fight.
That was way better.
That Amanda girl, jeez, her flap of her, oh my God, her eyelid.
Yep.
Her whole eyeball was gonna come out, but that fight was amazing.
That was way better
Those
because
girls were ruthless, powerful, inspiring.
and what's funny is that we should have known when that was like that.
Yeah,
Mike Tyson was gonna be furious.
yeah.
He was gonna come out there and just be.
I was ready to see a knockout.
You're gonna win, Jake. I'm rooting for you, Jake.
Yeah, I was ready to see a
Also, we
knockout.
should have known because before that, the night, 2 nights before, with the press conference and the slap, it was a work slap because you can literally see pinpoint the moment when he does the slap and then
Right.
hand comes back and you're like, what?
I kept seeing
There it
him
was.
on the clips during the fight too. Mike Tyson kept chewing or biting his glove. That was so weird.
Yep.
But
And you know why? Because he was doing
He
everything
was
inspiring not
holding
to
back.
beat the hell out.
yeah, I think he was holding back in nerves or something because you could see him bite his glove. I'm like,
Because remember, he
bite
said
his
that.
ear too.
I think
Remember, anytime that he boxes, Mike said that there's another side of him that comes
Yeah.
out. So that biting of the gloves is him preventing
Him
that
down.
person from coming out.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
should have let it out.
I think he was just tired, wore out.
He wasn't wore out
Nah.
for the sparring session. Come on.
Nah,
60-year-old
he
man.
was trying to get that
Hey.
money.
He wasn't 60, he was 58. And he was doing a hell of a job inside of sparring, but then for that 20 million, he's like, I don't want to win, I don't want to win, I'll lose my 20 million. Because, think about it, Jake Paul's making 40 million if he wins. That's a lose for Mike.
I really did not like either Paul brother, and but then the more like I don't pay any attention to their trash talking, but I like them now because there's zero reason for either one of these guys to do what they did, and I know like I'm not trying to put them up on a pedestal or anything, but they got more money than they know what to do with. And Logan goes into WWE and like he put his best effort into there, and he looks good for somebody that only did it for as long as he did.
And he's the older brother.
Yeah, and I think he's done with wrestling now.
Yeah, he is. He
but
got beat, and now he's done.
Jake's the same way though, man. Like he there's zero reason for him to go and box anybody. He has dropped everything, and he goes and trains for, that's all he does now is train.
But here's what I want to see.
Uh-oh.
Him box in an actual contender instead of
I got
these
one.
UFC fighters that
That's
come
just
in.
not fair.
I want him
It
to
is
fight
fair.
Canelo.
That's right.
Okay.
If I can
How's
see,
that fair?
That is
If
a
I
fair
can-
fight, man.
if I can see Jake and Canelo, and I go for Canelo,
Because
I go
think
for my own
about it.
people.
If Jake is a boxer, why wouldn't he be trying to go after these boxers?
Exactly.
Because he says he's
They
a boxer.
true
pound for
boxing.
pound.
Man.
Like he fights all these people that are like YouTubers
Yeah.
or people that used to do what is it called?
MMA?
MMA, like
And-
UFC.
And they're all past their prime, just like Mike Tyson.
Exactly.
I mean, this is true, but most
a
of these
true
boxers,
boxer.
most of these boxers have had amateur careers where they've fought like 70 something times, and then by the time they get to the pro level, they, like by the time they make it to where their name is known, they've probably had 20 fights. So like trying to get somebody that's been fighting basically less than amateurs for 2 years and putting them up against a world champion of several weight divisions, I don't know about that, man. That's not fair.
But Jake Paul's a boxer, right? He said they can knock out a world champion. So let him fight someone who's his age, someone who's had experience with boxing, who can show him what boxing is. Because
he did with Tommy.
Yeah, but Tommy Fury, I wouldn't consider that great.
He's
boxer
not a contender. He's a boxer, though.
I mean, he's a boxer, but watching him box, it was a little bit iffy.
It was iffy. He didn't fight his best that show.
He didn't.
And
even though he won, it's on because split decision.
Right.
But if you watch Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, they said Jake Paul threw 200 punches that connected. And he didn't actually throw 200. He threw maybe around 30, 40, maybe 50 that landed. But 200, I didn't see it.
Me neither. Rigged.
Yeah, because I mean, think about it. I will give Jake Paul credit that he knows how to trash talk.
Oh
but
yeah, he can definitely market himself for sure.
He's fought YouTubers who tried boxing. He's fought MMA guys that thought they were going to come in and become boxers. But you got to understand, MMA and boxing, two different sports. So when they came in, they got gassed out quick because they didn't understand stamina.
They don't know what they're doing. They never boxed before.
Exactly.
He needs to get a true boxer and show
That's why
us what he
Cornell
can do.
He needs to happen. He needs to take on someone like Cornell, because only then will we know if he's a true boxer or not. Because Cornell is young too, so
he's probably getting ready to retire.
Only because he realizes he's going to get his ass beat. But I mean, look at Logan Paul.
Yeah.
He worked with Floyd Mayweather, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Floyd Mayweather was going to get that
exhibition boxing match, they called it. And
Logan Paul didn't do too good during that.
He looked like he was getting beat, and Mayweather was carrying him, but Yeah,
because Mayweather's a seasoned boxer.
Yeah.
He knows all the ins and outs.
Yeah.
And you're friends with Matt Berg?
Yeah.
I've heard about that. Tell us how that came about.
Well, that's just from him being on the athletic commission. Like I said, the athletic commissioner in Georgia, his name is Matt also. It's Matt Woodruff. But
nice.
When we were moving here, Matt in Atlanta emailed Matt Bird letting him know that I was coming here and that if they had any shows coming up, just to, keep me in mind. And I think, so our first interaction, it wasn't that great because he asked me about working a show. It was shortly after we got to Kentucky. He asked me about working a show, but unfortunately it was the day that we were getting married. So
I was like, you're not going to leave the wedding just to go
referee. I didn't do that. I couldn't take the first assignment that he gave me, and I didn't hear from him for a while. It was probably a good 9 months, and I was like, man, I must have pissed him off or something.
I'm like,
no, that was smart though.
But you chose right.
Exactly.
So, but anyway, I don't even remember, but he hit me up again, and I think my first assignment here was as a referee. There's not a ton of MMA and kickboxing referees in Kentucky. I think at the most there might be 5 or so. Oftentimes they're having to bring in guys from West Virginia, and I think that's the only. I can't remember, but there's not a ton of them here, and
that's true.
Yeah, so there's a decent number of judges that they can pick and choose from, but I'm able to do both, judge and referee. So yeah, that it gives me a little bit more availability. But the shows are so far away, man. Lexington has been the closest that show that, and we live in Somerset. This is an hour and a half drive.
That's true.
The Ashland and Catlettsburg shows that NLC puts on, those are almost 3 hours away.
True.
There's HR MMA, that's Brandon Hard Rock Higdon, I think is how you pronounce his last name, but his last one was in Bowling Green. Philip Perkins, I think he does them in Louisville. I don't think I've got to work one of his shows yet, but he's only been doing shows for probably about a year and a half. So, yeah, like Matt's a good dude, man. Like he's a stand-up guy. Like I know you probably run into him at wrestling shows, especially in the bigger one, the AEW or the WWE shows. He's pretty active at those. So
he's someone that we'd like to get onto the show.
Man, I don't know. I could let him know. I'm not quite certain where he lives, and I don't know what. Like, I think he's involved in real estate and stuff, so I don't know what his schedule looks like. But I'll let him know that that you'd like to have him on. I'm sure he's got all kinds of stories he could tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially because he's the commissioner.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's definitely fun going to the events he has to work, whether he's being a referee or a judge or whatever. The perk for me is that I get to tag along, and he sits ringside, so I get to sit next to him as his +1, and I'm literally right in front of the cage. I get to see the live action. You know, sometimes there is blood.
Yeah.
And I experienced it in the last show. We got one drop of blood on Eric's phone, and I was just like, ugh.
I mean,
but it was fun.
That's to be expected though when you're at an event like that.
Yeah.
Blood will be happening.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun, and just being up close is exhilarating, and seeing all the fights and the blood up close, like
exactly.
You can't beat that, even if we have to drive 3 hours.
It's a thrill ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's typically like I said, that the shows they put on in Catlettsburg, like it's not like there's a hotel. I guess there might be a hotel there, but I'm not looking to spend the night there. It's like there's nothing up there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We like to get back home though. I mean, 2 hours isn't too bad. We got quite used to driving back and forth to Georgia, which is like 5.5 hours for us. So
exactly.
We don't do that a lot.
Boxing's pretty good too. Exhilarating even.
Yeah, I do like boxing a lot. Like when I was a kid, was when Tyson was on his tear.
Kid Dynamite.
Yep. I watched boxing back then. I was interested in it, and when Tyson had his heyday, but then I completely fell off from it. Didn't watch it for a long time. It's like Mayweather's a perfect example of this. Is like the boxers, they got to where it was more about not getting hit than it was to inflicting pain on somebody.
Yeah,
right?
I hate that type of boxing.
Yeah, so like Mayweather in the end of his career was that guy, and it just seemed like a lot of boxers were like that. But I stopped watching it for a long time. And that's actually how I got involved with the athletic commission. As a buddy of mine hit me. He's a referee in Georgia. He hit me up in December. It was probably about I don't know. I guess it's probably been about 5-6 years ago at this point. But there was a Tank Davis fighting at State Farm Arena, and it was near a Christmas time, and a lot of the athletic commission people were on vacation. So, they just, I don't know, for some reason, big boxing fights would come about within a month of, they'd announce it a month out.
Exactly.
He hit me up asking if I was interested in being an inspector at a boxing match. And I was like, sure, why not? I'd been to several MMA events because I worked for the promoter, but I'd never worked for the athletic commission before. So, they wanted somebody that could be around other people and not be like a marker, So I told him I would do it. He's like, "Well, it's some boxing match going on at a farm," and I was like, okay, sure, whatever. I didn't care. It was, going to get some experience or whatever. So he told me the date on it, and I looked it up because you can, any event that's going on, I don't know if every state's like this, but Georgia and Kentucky, the Athletic Commission posts all of the events that are going on their website. So I looked it up and I was like, hey man, this is not just some boxing match going on at a farm. This is Tank Davis in a championship boxing match going on at State Farm Arena. Like,
he played it down real bad.
Yeah. So I had agreed to it. I at that time I didn't even know. I knew the name Tank Davis, but I didn't know how awesome he was. My son is other than Max, our youngest here, I've got two other kids. My oldest son is 30.
He's 29.
29, and I've got a daughter that's 23.
24.
24. All right. So my oldest son is a huge boxing fan, and I was like, man, do you know, I'm going to work this boxing event, and Tank Davis is the headliner, and he's like, no, like he's flipping out, and I was like, he's a big deal, huh? And he's like, yeah, he is. So I got to work that event. I had never done anything for the commission before, and I was lucky enough to get a
banner. You got a banner?
Well, I'm trying to think what they at those boxing events, they take the inspectors and you stay with a certain person for the entire night. As soon as they get to the arena, you're on them because they don't want them to be like messing with the gloves, messing with the wraps, drinking energy drinks, eating food that has steroid. I don't know, you're shadowing that person from the time they walk in from the time they walk into the arena and until they walk back to the locker room. So I was lucky enough to get put with Badu Jack. So I don't know, he's not the biggest of names, but he is an awesome boxer. And I was lucky enough to get put with him, and I think at the time he might have been a Mayweather fighter. So Floyd came back there. It was it was the coolest experience ever. It was on. I think it was on Showtime Boxing. They don't do boxing anymore. But
they should.
Yeah, it was so cool, man. That was my first time ever working with the Athletic Commission and being able to work a fight of that caliber on Showtime pay-per-view. That was unreal. Who gets to work something like that as the first time ever, but that was really cool, man. It was an unreal experience.
That's what I'm talking about, because that's something that you can't pass up.
Yeah.
It gave you insight, it let you know the ins and outs, and it also gave you a foot inside the door.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I got involved in all that, though. It started off with inspecting. I inspected in, they call it inspecting in Georgia, just watching the fighters and all. But that's how I got started in that. And then I have, I'd done that for a year. I will say that's probably one of the most physically exhausting jobs that the commission has. For a person, because you're walking the fighters out to the ring, so you're out in the locker room walking back and forth, making sure that they're not doing anything they're not supposed to be doing. You're on your feet for 5-6 hours. At that point, I've already worked all day long at my real job and then gone out there. But it's tiring, that back and forth, and then so the opportunity came up to take the ABC course for judging and referee. There's only a few referees that teach that course. I was able to take the course from Blake Grice. He's a UFC referee. So I took that course and started doing. In Georgia, I never judged a fight. I think I just went to referee. I got to train with a referee down there in Georgia. I'd go out to the gym and they'd have mock fights. he would kind of tell the fighters, "Hey, fake like you poked an eye, fake like you kick somebody in the groin, stuff like that." And I'd have to act like I'd have to call it or whatever. So practice with that and got to do a couple of fights in Georgia, and then of course when I moved here, and been doing it here for about a year and a half now, I guess.
Similar to what wrestling referees have to do, because they do have fake eye pokes, fake dick kicks.
Well, so people have asked me about that before too. It was like, there's no way I'd get in there and be a wrestling referee right now, without going through some training in the ring. It's not, like it has, that's what I'm saying. It's similar, but the wrestling referee, you've got to know what's going on.
Yep. And you gotta pay attention because
it's different.
Because
it's way different.
You're out there not just watching wrestlers, but you gotta gauge what the fans are doing. If the fans are not buying it, you gotta walk up to the wrestlers without it being too obvious. Tell them, "Hey guys, try something different." Or you gotta keep an ear out for in case someone tells you to go home. To tell them to bring it on home to end the match quick. Or to pay attention when a wrestler actually gets injured. You have to tell everyone, this guy's hurt.
Yeah, it's definitely different being a referee in wrestling than it would be boxing and MMA.
Yeah, because in boxing you don't have to worry about all that stuff.
Yeah, the MMA, it's like it's pretty hard because there's so much stuff to keep an eye on. Like and the pressure is unreal, man. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like the first few times I did it, I was just nervous as all get out because the same is true with wrestling because I'm not gonna downplay that. There's chance of serious injury in the wrestling ring too. Yep. So like, definitely don't downplay that. But like as an MMA ref, like you're responsible for those two guys being able to walk out of that cage at night and go home to their families and like work the next day because most of those guys have regular jobs. And a lot of times at the fights in Kentucky, there's not a ton of pro fighters in Kentucky, and it's not knocking anybody. They just haven't been training long enough to go pro. But there's a lot of amateur fighters, and these guys, they definitely have to go to work the next day, and they have got, like, number one, they've got nerves of steel, but they've also got minds like these never quit and never die mentality.
Exactly.
But you've got to protect them. Like they don't. I'm not saying this is a knock against them, but they don't have enough sense to protect themselves. They will go out there on their shield to go out there dying.
Yeah, they will literally beat the hell out of each other, and they won't call them at y'all. You have to be the one that does it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of pressure when it comes to that stuff. Like I really enjoy it now, but I was beyond nervous the first few times I did it in Georgia, especially because in Georgia, I knew everybody. Like, I knew all of the fighters. Yep. I knew their trainers. I knew everybody out in the crowd. Like, I knew everybody. And it's like, hard. Can you imagine going out into a ring and, like, everybody you know is watching you? It's one thing, like, I don't know hardly any of these people in Kentucky. So I go out there and it's just like a regular job, like I know what I'm doing, but it was nowhere near as intimidating and scary as it was in Georgia. Like,
exactly.
I felt like I was on the stage.
Exactly, because not only are you referee, but you've also got tons of people watching you while you're refereeing with the boxers. You got basically to them, not the fans, because if the boxers go overhead and they're just beating the hell out of each other, you got to call it.
Yeah.
Because if not, they're not going to call it themselves because they're going to be wanting to kill each other.
Yep.
Because they got inside their head already, if I don't kill him, he going to kill me, so I'm going to keep on till this guy ain't standing. So you got to be like, whoa, guys, go to your corner. We ain't going to have him this continuing. And if you see the guy's too bloody, then you got to call it because he can't continue. His eye being shut down, you got to say no.
Yeah.
This match is done. This guy won.
Yeah. That's one thing that we don't have a ton of in our store either is combat sports and boxing memorabilia. It seems like that stuff's quite a bit harder to come by. Like, how often do you see somebody walking around in a boxing T-shirt? They make them, but like you see people in wrestling T-shirts all the time. So,
Exactly.
Yeah. I think the last thing that we had boxing wise was a Muhammad Ali hoodie.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Yep.
goat.
That was
Yep.
the only thing that I remember having boxing wise.
And most of the time, if I see that stuff, that's one thing that I hold on to. I think like I've got a hat from Tyson Holyfield fight it's the one that never happened. It was in 1991. I don't remember what casino it was, but
Yeah.
it didn't happen. They had made merch for it, and I found that hat, but I kept it. I had it listed for a while, and I had it listed high, like probably higher than what it would sell for. But I was like, you never see a Holyfield Tyson hat, like
Exactly.
so. I held on to that. So a lot of times, like, we don't find hardly any MMA and boxing stuff. I keep my eye out for it, but it's rare that we find anything like that.
It'd be dope to find it.
Man, my favorite belt is that WBC, the boxing belt, the green one.
Yep.
Man, I love that thing. I'd love to find one of those.
Hell yeah.
But I'd keep it. There's no way I'd sell that thing. We've
That's
sold
right.
so many wrestling belts, though.
Yeah, we had some cool ones for sure.
The Cena spinner belt. We had the U.S. title,
Yep.
the spinner belt. I'll tell you, one of my favorite finds with a PH, I guess, is I went to
I see what you did there.
I went to a Goodwill this one time, and behind the counter they had I can spot a WWE logo or a WC, like if it's a wrestling logo,
Nice.
I can spot it from a mile away. Like it doesn't matter where we're at. If it has a wrestling logo on it, I'm gonna see it. So I saw
That's
this
right.
behind the counter, and I didn't know what it was. I just saw the logo, and I said, "Hey, what's that thing?" And they pulled it out, and it was the belt inside of the zipper bag that they come
Yep.
in. So they pulled it out, and it was $100. So I took it out. I opened the zipper on it, and what I see is red. And I was like, oh man, this is that stupid red Universal title. I was so disappointed. But I kept unzipping, and that was the back of the belt. And I was like, I flip it over, and it was the big gold.
Nice. Yeah, because the big gold has the red strap on the back.
Yep. So I thought about keeping it.
I said, Eric, why do you need a wrestling belt?
Why do I need a wrestling belt?
And then you see John Lee has 3 up here.
Yeah. I also
This
got
is why.
plus I got my own championship that's custom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put that one up for sale. I think we sold it within days for it was at least $200. It might have been $250. I don't remember. But
That's smart because those belts they ain't cheap. You
Yeah.
got it for cheap. $100 because
Yeah.
normally they go for $500 or $600.
Right.
yeah.
Like, there are some Goodwills that know what they got, and there's some Goodwills they don't know what they got.
Exactly.
And then there are some stores, like, they have the prices good, and then some other places have stupid pricing.
That's right.
So it's just,
That's
you got
good
lucky.
deals.
But I didn't let them keep it.
Yeah. I don't.
Hey.
I currently have no belts. Nothing. Some of my favorite that we've had is the TNA the kids titles. Believe it or not, those things they sold for a ton of money. I think I ended up giving one of them to, I say give, but Brandon got a couple of them off of me. That they called it the Legends title for a little bit.
Yep.
But I don't remember, they changed the name of it a couple of times. It was that one that was red.
Yep, I remember that title.
Yeah. TNA stuff is not the easiest to find, so like that's definitely something that I keep my eyes open for. We just sold 2 days ago. We sold a TNA wrestling DVD game,
Yeah.
it was already open, but yeah, that one we just sold. What the figure that I just got I've got a Jeff Hardy autographed TNA Impact figure that we've got listed right now. Just sold a Rhino TNA figure that we picked up at Corbin Con. I don't know if you've ever been out to Corbin Con.
Not yet.
Man, you need to go out there sometime. Anybody that's got any interest in like vintage toys, video games,
That's
stuff
one
like
of my
that,
favorite
definitely go
shows.
out there. It's free to get in, and they usually have some good stuff.
They have a variety of things, and
Yeah.
definitely can find one-of-a-kind items as well.
Yeah. We recently sold that Rhino figure, so that
Nice.
was pretty cool. Yeah.
Can
Any
you
stuff
believe-
that I try to keep my eye out on anything like at this point, kind of the rarer stuff that's still in box. Like I said, there's just a like overrun of WWE figures out there, the elites and stuff like that. Like if we're forced to buy some Jax figures along to get some good
Yeah.
good elite figures, we'll do it. But like I really try to stay away from them now. But we're not going to turn away a good deal.
Yeah.
Exactly. Can you
I-
believe?
I think one thing that I like that since we moved to Kentucky is that when it's not cold season, obviously, but when it's yard sale season, there is yard sales every week in Kentucky.
Yep.
And back in Atlanta, that's not common. There
Yeah.
is no yard sales in Atlanta. And when we first moved here, there was a yard sale every week. And I'm telling you, I had busy days. Every day I was going out yard selling
Nice.
or
Yeah.
estate sales or
That is Kentucky.
auctions. And you know what? People that do yard sales, they're trying to get rid of stuff. They don't want to pack back
Exactly.
in. And I remember going to a yard sale. I found three. It's a 90s show called Doug,
Yeah.
and
I love
it was
Doug.
a cartoon Doug, and I found three Doug, big old I
They
don't
had
know
to have
how-
been like 24 or
24-inch
28-inch
dolls.
dolls,
They're original box, original dolls. I had the Doug, I had Patty the girl, and Skeeter, which
Oh
is the,
yeah, Skeeter.
yeah, the blue guy. And
Oh yeah,
And
Skeeter,
this lady-
Doug's brother. I mean, best friend.
yeah, and believe it or not, this lady, she was like, "Oh, you make me an offer," and I'm so cheap. I was trying to pay little to nothing. So I said, would you do $5 each on each thing? I didn't think she was going to do 5 each. She said yes. So I got all those three for $15.
That's smart.
And then the first one that sold was the girl, I think it was. The girl sold for $80. Then it was Doug. He sold for $60. And then Skeeter last sold, it was $100. Around $100.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how much money we made out of $15? And
You make good
and then
money.
it's rare to find these things, so it's just really neat.
Exactly.
That's one of my favorite things for sure. Living in Kentucky is the yard sales, the everything sales.
Heck yeah. Well, guys, we've been on here 2 hours.
Yeah.
Man, it went by fast.
Yes, it did. Who wants to say their goodbyes first?
We'll let you do it.
You do it. So yeah, it was good to talk with you, Johnny, and SuperFly, Johnny.
That's right.
I appreciate you having us out here. Like I've been wanting to get on a show, so I'm glad that we got on your show.
It was fun. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
definitely fun.
Appreciate you having y'all.
Everybody go check out phenomenalfindsatl.com. You're going to find the links to our eBay store. We've got YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can still buy stuff on eBay right now, and it will get to you before Christmas. I think we've got about another week of sales before we'll have to cut it off for Christmas
true.
shopping. But we're running a sale right now, 10% off on the entire store. All the way through the end of December. We might continue it on so people can spend that Christmas money.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, go on there. We've got everything. There's a lot of wrestling stuff. I'd say about a third of our store is wrestling stuff. We've got everything from T-shirts, figures, memorabilia, whatever it is. We've got electronics. coats, jackets, sweatshirts, you name it, we got it. Anything you need. Phenomenal Phinds ATL.com.
That's right.
Well, thank you guys. Bye.
That's right. Well, guys, thank y'all for doing this. Been watching tonight. And always remember, stay nice. And if you're not having fun, you ain't getting none. Damn, skip it. Yeet, yeet.
Nice Guy Andy Podcast.